Hello, hello, hello. All right, so we are going into notes 2.03, which is over two more angle pairs. Okay, so the angle pairs that we have talked about, and I'm going to add a page. The angle pairs we have talked about complementary, which is two angles that add up to 90 degrees. And we talked about supplementary, and it's two angles that add up to 180 degrees. Now, last chapter 2.02, we talked about the angle bisector and the angle addition postulate. Those technically aren't angle pairs, but angle pairs can be something we talked about last time, adjacent, so they share a side. Angle pairs can share a side, or angle pairs can be non-adjacent, so they don't share a side. So they can be both. Okay. But today we're going to talk about two more types of angle pairs. Now, there are a lot of examples that will help you through these definitions. So, a vertical pair, it says right here, it says not all intersecting lines form right angles, but they do form four angles that have special relationships. So let's talk about those relationships. The first one we want to talk about is vertical angles. Vertical angles. Vertical angles are two non-adjacent angles. So they do not share a vertex and a side. So they're not adjacent, non-adjacent. Formed by intersecting lines, vertical angles are always congruent. Okay, let's talk about what vertical angles look like. So if I draw my own picture. Okay, this angle and this angle are vertical pairs. Okay, they only share a vertex. They only share a vertex between each other. No sides are being shared. Okay, so that's kind of how I remember this. Vertical angles, I think of vertex. So I think of this prefix right here, and I think of the word vertex. Okay, so they only share a vertex. All right, and they are always congruent. So that means that angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. All right, a linear pair. A linear pair. So what does linear mean again? We learned it when we were talking about... What are we talking about? Oh, collinear. Okay, thank you. I was trying to... Thank you. I'm telling you thank you. Anyways. Okay, linear pair. Okay. All right, a linear pair is adjacent angles. So they have to be adjacent, meaning they share a side and a vertex, whose non-common sides are opposite rays. Okay. The sum of the measure of these angles in a linear pair is 180 degrees. So a linear pair is one example of supplementary angles. So this is what a linear pair looks like. Okay, so they share a side. Okay, so it says adjacent angles. These are adjacent because it shares this side only. Okay, that's the common side they have. Our opposite, so whose non-common side are opposite rays. So what it's talking about is this side right here and this side right here. They're opposite rays right there. Okay, they're opposite rays. Okay, so these measures right here, this measure plus this measure, equal to 180 degrees. So it labeled these points. So C, O, B, and BOA. Okay. All right, so now we just have to determine, okay, if they're vertical angles, then they're congruent. If they're linear, they add up and equal 180. All right, line AC and line DE intersect at point B. Find X. Okay, so the first thing you have to do is determine what kind of pair this is. All right, well, this angle right here only shares a vertex with this angle right here. So if it only shares a vertex, it is a vertical angle. So the type of pair it is vertical angles. So if they are vertical, that means that angle ABE is congruent to angle DBC. Because they are congruent, we can set them equal to each other. So ABE was 105 degrees. And we set it equal to 3x plus 15. Now we solve for x. So we're going to subtract, just kidding. We're going to subtract the 15. That's not dark enough, I don't think. All right, so 105 minus 15. So I'm left with 3x. Always your last step is to divide by the 3, divide by the coefficient. So 30 equals x. Here, surprisingly, it obviously is going to ask you for x because you know the value of the angle. Okay. All right. Practice 2. LN and OP intersect at point M. Find the measure of LMO and OMN. So what it means is angle. No, why that's not there. So the first thing you have to do is determine the type of angle it is. Okay, so the values that we are given right here are this angle and this angle. All right, they are adjacent to each other. Okay, and they create a straight angle, which remember a straight angle is 180 degrees. So because they're adjacent to each other, this is a linear pair. It's a linear pair. All right, because it's a linear pair, I'm going to take angle LMO plus angle OMN and set it equal to 180 because they are a linear pair. So LMO is 7x plus 20. OMN is 5x plus 10. And set it equal to 180. I first need to combine like terms. So I have a 7x, a 5x, and then I have a plus 20 and a plus 10. So I have 7 plus 5, so 7x plus 5x, so I have 12x. And I have 20 plus 10, which is 30. Now I can solve for x. So I'm going to subtract by 30. I'm left with 12x, equals 150. 150. And your last step, as always, is to divide by your coefficient. Okay, so your coefficient is 12, so you're going to divide by 12. We're going to divide by 12. And x equals 12.5. Okay. All right. It wants LMO. Okay, so it wants this angle right here first. So we're going to do 7 times 12.5. plus 20. So 7 times 12.5 should get you 87.5. And plus 20 should get you 107.5 degrees. OMN is 5x plus 10. So 5 times 12.5 plus 10. So 12.5 times 5 is 62.5. So add 10. 72.5. Now, if you want to check your answers, these two angles right here. Oh my goodness gracious. These two angles right here, LMO and OMN, should be supplementary. They should add up and equal to 180. So, does 107.5 plus 72.5 equal to 180? And they do. So, this is correct. All right, I want you to try practice 3. I want you to try. So, you try. Okay? So you have to determine the kind of pair of it. So because they only share a vertex, they are vertical angles. So because they're vertical angles, they are congruent. They are congruent. So that means that 16x minus 20 equals 13x plus 7. And now you just solve for x. All right. So let's talk about this. Hold on. Okay. So let's talk about this. Write a sentence about each of the 4 types of angle pairs that we have learned. So the 4 types of angle pairs that we have learned complementary, we've learned supplementary, we've learned vertical pairs now. And we have learned linear pair. All right, so complementary angles are 2 angles that add up to 90 degrees. Supplementary angles, remember we could do this little thing with the 1 and 8, are 2 angles that add up to 180. Vertical pairs are 2 angles that share a vertex and they're congruent. And a linear pair are 2 adjacent angles that are supplementary. Okay, so give yourself time to write these down. Okay. All right, practice 4. It says ray CD and line AB are perpendicular. I think that's what that signal is supposed to be. The signal is supposed to be a perpendicular sign. So that means if it's perpendicular, so this means perpendicular, the upside down T. So that means that this right here. Okay, so if they're perpendicular, they create 90-degree angles. Okay, so if I have a 90-degree angles and I have angle 1, which is 6x minus 3. And angle 2 is 7x minus 11. All right. That word perpendicular means it creates 90-degree angles. So I'm going to take my angle 1 and add it to my angle 2 and set it equal to 90. Because angle 1 plus angle 2 does equal 90 degrees because there's a perpendicular line there. And now I just plug in. So angle 1, which is 6x minus 3, plus angle 2, which is 7x minus 11, set it equal to 90 degrees. I'm going to combine like terms. So I have 6x and a positive 7x, which gets us 13x. We have negative 3 plus a negative 11, which gets us negative 14. All right, so now we're going to solve for x. So we're going to add 14. I'm left with 13x equals 104. Okay, last step always is divide by the coefficient. So we're going to divide by 13. And x equals 8. All right. So let's determine the type of pair right here. Okay, so if we have two angles that add up to 90, let's go back up to our little statements up here. What is it called when two angles add up and equal 90? Complementary. Complementary. So this type is a complementary angle. All right, so it wants us to find the measure of angle 2. For some reason, our Word documents don't like the angle symbol. Okay, so I'm going to plug a in back into angle 2, which is 7x minus 11. So I have 7 times 8 minus 11. So 7 times 8 is 56 minus 11, which gets us 45 degrees. All right, I'm going to draw this picture for you. Angle 1 and angle 2 are supplements. Okay. So they're supplement angles. So if they're supplement angles, what does that mean? What does that mean when they're supplementary angles? Yes, they create a 180-degree measure. 180-degree measure. So I'm going to label one as 1 and 1 as 2. Okay, so it says angle 1 is 3x plus 20. So I'm going to label this one as 3x plus 20. And the other one, angle 2, is 5x plus 8. All right, and it says our whole, they both add up and equal 180. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do angle 1, because it's angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180. Angle 1 is 3x plus 20. Angle 2 is 5x plus 8. And we're going to set it equal to 180. All right, we have to combine our like terms first because we have multiple of our constants and multiple of the x's. Okay, so we have 3 plus 5, which gets us 8x. And then I have, let's go back. Let's write this in black. 8x, and then we have 20 plus 8, which is 28, equals 180. Okay, we're going to now solve for x, so I needed to subtract 28. So I get 152. And the last but not least, your last step is to divide by the coefficient. So I'm going to divide by 8. So x equals 152 divided by 8, which gets us x equals 19. Okay. We have one more. Practice 6. We want to find the measure of the missing angles. Find the measure of the missing angles. All right. So we have to think about two things. We have to think about vertical angles, because remember, those are congruent. So that's always what I tackle first. I always go and look for the vertical unit, the vertical angles. And then I have to look for supplementary. Or not supplementary, but linear. Linear angles. Okay, so which angles make a line? Okay. All right, so let's tackle vertical angles because they're congruent, so why wouldn't we? So we're given this angle right here, which is 110. So we are looking for an angle that only shares a vertex with it. Okay, and that is right across from it. Okay. So what angle is right across from and mirror image of the angle with 110? All right, if you said angle 2, you are correct. Angle 2 is a mirror image of 110, okay? And it's right across and it only shares a vertex. Well, Coach C, angle 3 only shares a vertex with 110. Yes, but it's not a mirror image. It has to be straight across from it, okay? Actually, angle 3 is on a linear line with angle 110, so that's why we cannot use angle 3. But we can use angle 2. So the value of angle 2 is 110 degrees. All right, so we can also label this as 110. All right, there's one more angle we can tackle. One more angle we can tackle. This 45-degree measure. Okay, so we're looking for the vertical angle to 45. The vertical angle to 45. All right, if you said 3, you are correct. If you said 3 in your head or out loud or you already knew it, 3 is the vertical angle to 45. So because they're vertical angles, that means that angle 3 is also 45 degrees. All right, so now we still have to find angle 4 and angle 1. Easy. We find one of them, we find the other one. Okay, because they are vertical angles. Angle 1 and angle 4 are vertical angles, so we can find one, and now we found the other. So I'm going to look at this one right here. Okay. Remember, we took care of our vertical angles. Now we need to look into linear. We need to look into linear. Okay, so I have this linear pair right here. All three of these angles create one straight line. Okay, they create this really big 180-degree angle. Okay, so if that angle, if that angle equals 180, that means angle 3 plus angle 4 plus 110 should equal 180. Well, I know the value of angle 3 because we found it because it was a vertical angle to the 45 degree. So angle 3 is 45 degrees. So 45 plus 4, the angle 4, and 110 equals 180. Okay, so now I'm going to combine like my constants that I have here. So I have a 45 and I have my 110. Okay, which should get us angle 4 plus 155 equals 180. All right, now I need to get angle 4 by itself. So I'm going to subtract 155. Okay, now I'm left with angle 4 equals 180 minus 55. 180 minus 155. Sorry, not 55, just 155. All right, so angle 4 should be 25 degrees. All right, well, if angle 4 is 25 degrees, that means that angle 1 is also 25 degrees. Okay, and what you can do is try and make sure that all those add together and equal 180. So 110 plus 25 plus 45, which it does equal 180, and you are on the money. All right, hope this helps. Bye, guys.